Yo guys, what is going on? Got a BT14 rulings video for you guys. So kind of compiled a list of just, I think, somewhat common ruling questions and interactions and stuff that may come up for you as while you're playing BT14, including the new Blast Ace kind of mechanic, yellow vaccine stuff, War Gray, Loogamon, all that good stuff. So guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was, of course, going to be Blast Evolution as well as Counter Time. We all kind of know this at this point, but just because BT14 is the whole mechanic is, Blast Evolution, figured I might as well run through it. As well as just talk about block timing as well, because now things with the blockers, such as maybe in the case of something like Tai Kamiya, you can give blocker one of your Greymons. Blocker timing is its own separate step. So let's say in this scenario, it's my opponent's turn, and then he's going to declare an attack with this Strabimon at my security. And then now there's kind of two things I can do here, right? So let's say in the previous turn I had given blocker to this Black or Greymon X, so this guy's a blocker. I now have the ability to either block or use the hand counter effect from my Metal Greymon Ace. Now the thing that actually happens first is, of course, any one attacking effects from my opponent, but none of those are going to trigger. And then afterwards, it's going to be any response I have, like when your opponent's Digimon would declare an attack, when your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, etc. And then after that, Blast Evolution is gonna, the counter timing is going to happen next. So you actually, in this scenario, do have to resolve the Metal Greymon Ace first if you do want to use it. Like you could just say, okay, I don't have anything during counter timing, and then just block it. But in this case, if you wanted to evolve this, you'd have to do it beforehand. So I'd say, okay, during counter timing, I'm going to use this hand effect. I'm going to blast Digivolve, Digivolve for 0 on my opponent's turn, and then I get this one Digivolving effect. Delete something in 6k or lower. Going to delete the Strabimon, and then since it's no longer in the field, attack doesn't go through, and then we don't even have to get to block timing because there's nothing for me to block anymore. But in the alternate case where just not use this effect, and then you would say, hey, I'm just going to block, and then they would do battle just like normal. Then, of course, we also have the dreaded overflow mechanic. So you see at the bottom of the text box there, it says overflow -3 when this card is sent from the battle area or under one of your cards to other places, lose 3 memory. So this basically applies to if it is on the battle area as a Digimon at any point, or maybe if it is underneath a tamer and then sent to the trash, the tamer's deleted or something, then you will trigger the overflow immediately. And this isn't kind of an effect. This happens even in the middle of other things resolving immediately. So let's say in my opponent's turn, they're going to play the Tommy for 3, and then they're going to use Tommy's effect, trash the 3 bottom Digivolution source of this Black or Greymon. This is going to be trash, and then they'll immediately gain back 3 memory from the overflow because this was on the battle area at one point, and then because it was sent from under one of my cards to the trash, then it is going to trigger that overflow. Keep in mind this doesn't stop it from triggering. Like let's say if you had this in your hand, it never hit the battle area, maybe you discarded it off a card effect, or if it was in security and your opponent security checked it, like this was, they swung, I didn't block or anything, this was a security check, it just goes from straight security to trash, no overflow is triggered there. So really you just have to be utilizing it as a monster in some way or form. And then since we've got Blue Hybrid here, I did just want to mention something about this Loogamon, since this is one of the strongest eggs in the new set. So this card says while your opponent has no Digimon with equal or more Digivolution cards, then this Digimon, it gains jamming. So this is something like a continuous effect, since it's just your turn. So in this scenario, let's say my opponent, again, it's their turn, maybe they're like 2 or something. They promote the Strabimon. The Strabimon has 1 material. Both of my Digimon have 0. So then if they do swing security, this will have jamming. Or it has jamming immediately upon coming into the battle area. And then once you do security check, like let's say in this case it would die. I don't know actually why this is here, but anyways, so it would die. But since I have jamming, nothing actually happens. Now in another scenario, like let's say if my board was completely empty, this effect still does give your opponent's Digimon jamming, because it says while your opponent has no Digimon with equal or more Digivolution cards. It doesn't have to, you basically don't have to have a Digimon in the first place for this to trigger. So if let's say my board is clear, my opponent swings with Strabimon, it still does have jamming. The only kind of way to get around this is, of course, is having something that has more material. So in this case, let's say my opponent swung, it would not have jamming since my Black or Greymon has 2 materials. Their Strabimon only has 1. So hopefully pretty straightforward. Alright, the next deck I wanted to talk about was going to be Yellow Vaccine. With the advent of BT14, you get more Patamon support and kind of security manipulation to kind of a crazy degree. So you've got a couple new cards here like Patamon, you've got the new BT14 TK, as well as the Messenger of Hope option card. So I'm going to kind of talk about all of these cards and what exactly they do. So in this scenario, let's say I'm going to be moving out my Patamon from the breeding area, and then I'm going to trigger this start of main phase effect where it says, look at your security. This Digimon may Digivolve into a yellow Digimon card with a vaccine trait among them without paying the cost. After that, you shuffle your security, and if you Digivolve with this effect, you may place a yellow card with the vaccine trait from your hand to the bottom of the security stack. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and move out my Patamon. I'm going to use this effect. So even if I don't have anything, because the first line just says look at your security stack, you can always at least look at it. So in the case you don't have anything, you just don't like evolve into anything. Let's say my security stack looks something like this, and hey, I've got this yellow Digimon card with the vaccine typing here, so then I can go ahead and take out this Angemon. I can go ahead and Digivolve onto my Patamon via this effect, so I'm going to Digivolve it into the Angemon for no cost, drawing off the Digivolution first. And then after that, the Patamon effect is still lingering, so you still have to resolve all the rest of this effect. And then keep in mind, since now we are an Angemon, we do have access to the Patamon inherited as well. So we're going to resolve the rest of Patamon. It says then shuffle your security stack. Okay, we're going to shuffle here. And then it's going to say, if you Digivolve this effect, you may place a yellow card with a vaccine trait from your hand. So I'm going to look at my hand, and I am going to reveal this yellow vaccine card. It is a Magnet Angemon Ace, both yellow and a vaccine trait. And keep in mind that you do have to reveal the card you are placing in your security with all of these effects, with both Patamon as well as TK, which we'll get to in a little bit, because basically your opponent needs to be able to verify whether the card you did place in your security was a vaccine trait and or like basically met the requirements, because you could just be putting any old random card. Also keep in mind this effect is optional, so if for some reason like maybe you're like, alright, well I actually want to Digivolve into this later, play it, something, I'm just not going to, and I'll take the neg off of security. So I don't know, I started 6, but I was at 6, so now I'm down to 5. But you could do that in some cases if you wanted to. You just don't have to resolve the last part of the effect. So let's say in this case I am going to resolve that. So I'm going to put this at the bottom of my security stack after it's been shuffled, and boom, my effect from Patamon has finished resolving. Now that Patamon has been finished resolving, I have additional effects on my field 3, in fact, I can trigger, because a security card was added to my security stack. As you saw, that Magnet Angemon Ace, while this inherited was under a Digimon, I do get to gain a memory from the Patamon. So I'm going to get a memory from the Patamon. I'm going to also be able to draw a card off the Tokomon, and since again I recovered one, I can trigger this Kari to then gain a memory as well. So all those activations kind of saw the security being triggered. Of course, if I didn't put anything, I wouldn't have been able to do so. And then you can also, in that same kind of order, resolve any one Digivolving effects from the Digimon you are evolving into with Patamon. And then kind of similar thing. So let's say after that, I'm going to use TK. So I'm going to pay the memory cost, play for 3. On play, by adding the top card of your security stack, you may place a yellow vaccine from your hand to the bottom. And of course, that first effect is optional, so you don't actually have to do it. So if I just want to play this and just don't want to mess with my security, I can just do so. If I do want to, I'm going to be like, all right, so then I'm going to add the top card of my security stack to my hand. And then I'm going to then place a yellow vaccine, which of course that part's optional as well. So maybe if I want to keep this, I could just keep it in hand. But in this scenario, this didn't really do anything. I just moved the Angemon from top to bottom. But then of course in this same scenario, I could then use the second effect, since a card was added, suspend to gain a memory. And then lastly, same thing, because you know, we need to verify whether this was a yellow vaccine. I'm going to reveal that to my opponent, and then before putting it to the bottom. And then lastly is going to be Messenger of Hope. So then in this case, I'm going to pay 1, use its effect, look at my security stack again. One of your Digimon may Digivolve into a level 6 or lower yellow vaccine from amongst them. So I'm going to again look here. I paid 1, and you don't pay the memory cost for this card, so I'm going to say, hey, I've got the Magnet Angemon Ace, and of course it does need to be able to meet the requirements. So even though this card says level 6 or lower, I can't just take this Seraphimon here and slap it on top of my Angemon. It can't ignore Digivolution conditions. So in this case, it needs to be both yellow and a vaccine to meet this condition, and then yellow level 5 to meet this condition. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and Digivolve this, And then before the Magna Angemon, you do immediately draw, of course, but before the Magna Angemon, I'm going to finish resolving Messenger of Hope. Then shuffle your security stack, so we're going to shuffle, and then if you Digivolved into this Digimon, and then you've got TK on your field, you get to trigger Recover +1 deck. So since we do have TK in this scenario, I'm going to be able to then after that Recover, and then now I will resolve the when Digivolving effect of the Magna Angemon Ace to if I have 5 refused security cards, recovery +1. I have 6, so I'm not going to recover, but then one of your opponent's Digimon gets -1,000 for each card in security stack, so the Strabimon will get -6,000. It will be met with a death there. So that's kind of all I wanted to talk about with the Yellow Vaccine deck. Nothing super complicated, but you do kind of want to be mindful of all of your effect resolutions, and guys, just remember to take all of them one by one, and just kind of do one full effect before you do the next one. One last thing I want to talk about in pertaining to Yellow Vaccine, or I guess just yellow decks or hybrid decks in general. If you are planning to play yellow hybrid or blue hybrid, you might want to keep this one in mind, but it has to do with the new training box toppers from BT14. So these cards have a main effect, which is pretty self-explanatory, to say reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 yellow card or whatever color card your boost is amongst them to your hand, place the rest at the bottom of your deck, and then put this in the battle area. Mainly what I want to talk about is the second effect where it says main, delay. You can trash this card to activate this effect. One of your Digimon may Digivolve into a yellow Digimon card in your hand by paying the Digivolution cost, but reduce it by 2. So what I do want to mention is in this scenario where, let's say you've got this Kazemon in your hand, you want to use this physical training, maybe you're at like 1 memory or something here. So in this case, what you can do is you can pop this physical training, send it to the graveyard, or send it to trash, sorry, and then you can utilize this effect. So I do have a Digimon on field, and that has an appropriate target in hand to be able to Digivolve into, so I'm going to be able to Digivolve into this Kazemon for 0. Now the other thing you might want to try to do is use this physical training to say, hey, I'm going to Digivolve into this TK for 0 because Kazemon says you can Digivolve this from your hand onto your yellow tamers as if the tamer is a yellow Digimon, which is, you know, this does treat the tamer as a Digimon, but in the case of physical training or any of the training cards, the way these cards work is as soon as you send them to the trash, you trigger the effect to Digivolve into one of the Digimon in your hand. It's not like Hidden Potential Discovered, for example, or something like win rate 60%, where those cards say like the next time you would. So it's those effects are more like a lingering effect, and then you just trigger it whenever you Digivolve, like the next time. You can do other stuff in between. But the training cards, immediately you have to Digivolve into something. And the conflict with this is that this says one of your Digimon may Digivolve into a yellow Digimon card. And as soon as you trash this, like let's say in this case I didn't have Patamon on field, you don't have an appropriate target, you don't have a Digimon on field, you don't have an appropriate target for this option card already to be able to Digivolve this Kazemon in your hand. The reason why Kazemon sees TK as a tamer is because due to Kazemon's effect, like when you would Digivolve Kazemon, like let's say you didn't have this training, you would say, hey, when I would Digivolve Kazemon, I'm going to use this effect to treat TK as a level 3. So only in that instance of revealing Kazemon in your hand is TK treated as a yellow level 3, but with the effect of training, when you're not revealing Kazemon beforehand, this is just a tamer. So you actually can't like 0 cost hybrid with the training boost card. So that is something pretty notable to keep in mind if you're playing yellow hybrid or blue hybrid or any sort of those decks. Just keep that in mind, because you can't actually do this. Not to say these cards aren't good, because they come up in other scenarios. Like for example, maybe if you had you know, 2 memory and you could do like, all right, I'm going to Digivolve Kazemon for 2, and then you could pop this, and then maybe if you had something like a Jet Sylphie, or like a Zephyrmon or something, you could be like, hey, I'm going to pop that and then Digivolve into here, using this condition for Digivolving onto a level 4 for 1, and then reduce cost by 2, making it 0. So you could do something like that, but just not from hybrid to tamer. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be the Mind Link mechanic as well as the new Loogamon cards. So in a scenario where, like, let's say you've got maybe like your first turn was like, hey, I'm going to evolve this, and then you like play the AG for 3 cost, and then your opponent does something, you're going to move out, like draw for turn, move out, and then start a main. What you could do is use this effect. So like let's say I'm going to use this effect, place 1 AG Nagasumi from your hand or trash under this to gain a memory. So I'm going to gain a memory, like let's say I'm at 3, I go to 4. The thing about the new tamers is that they do have inherited effects. So in this scenario, since I placed it, now these inheriteds are viable. So it says, while this Digimon is Dark Animal or SOC trait, Sons of Chaos, this Digimon gains Alliance and Blocker. So currently this Loogamon does have both Alliance and Blocker. Now I do have an AG on my field as well. So you also have a main Mind Link effect where it says one of your Digimon, Mind Link to one of your Digimon with the Dark Animal or SOC trait. It says place this tamer as that bottom Digivolution cards if there are no tamers in its Digivolution card. So in this case, you can you can't use this AG to Mind Link to this Looga and get 2 instances of Alliance and Blocker because there's already an AG underneath. But maybe, like, let's say you kept this in your hand, you're at 3, you didn't want to use this start of main to put this AG underneath. You could Mind Link with the one on field and still get the Alliance and Blocker underneath your stack there. And then keep in mind this is restricted to solely Dark Animals or SOC. So in the type there on the right where it says Dark Animal / X Antibody / SOC, which actually I didn't even know this evolution line was X Antibody. Hold up, that's kind of crazy. That's besides the point. But yeah, so it is restricted in that sense. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is going to be some combos with the Fenrir Loogamon. Now, Fenrir Loogamon is a really crazy card, and mainly I want to talk about the your turn effect. It says the condition to end your turn, or end the turn, becomes your opponent having 3 or more memories. So, in normal Digimon, as soon as you go past 0, so like let's say, let's say I already have this on field. Like let's say this is my field, I start my turn at 3, and then I go like play this for 3, and then play Alice for 2. Normally, this would pass the turn to my opponent because the memory gauge has gone past 2. But in the case of me having Fenrir Loogamon, because it says the condition becomes your opponent having 3 or more memory, instead of 1 or more memory, it is still my turn even though my opponent is at 2. So it wouldn't be until I, like, let's say I play this guy for 3, pass my opponent to 5, now it becomes their turn. So there's some really crazy things you can do with this kind of effect. For example, you can use something like, let's say you got a combo with like Analog Youth as well as D level 5. Okay, so Hell Loogamon is a cool card that has an end of turn effect. So the way end of your turn effects work is once every other kind of effect resolution has finished resolving, and then it is about to pass turn, you utilize the end of your turn effect. So let's say in this scenario, I'm going to like play Analog Youth to pass turn to 4. Since I've got Fenrir Loogamon on my field, it's still my turn to 2, so I'm going to pass turn at 4 by playing this from my hand, resolve its effect, 1, 2, 3. Let's say I grab this Gabumon, trash the rest. And then since my turn is ending now, I have a couple of end of your turn effects. So, well, let's say like I had Mind Linked or something. So you've got something like this. You've got 2 end of turn triggers. So end of all turns and end of your turn, I can trigger these in any way I want to. So let's say I'm going to use AG first. You may play an AG from this Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying the cost. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to play this AG, and then I'm going to resolve this effect of Hell Lugar. And let's give this guy material just for the sake of this example. So let's say he's got something like this. End of your turn, delete this Digimon and draw 2. So I'm going to delete this Digimon, draw 2, and then you may return 1 Loogamon from your trash to your hand. So you can look through your trash. In this scenario, don't have a Loogamon. And even if you did, you don't have to add it back, but you definitely usually want to. And then because of that trigger, because the Hell Loogamon was deleted, I can then trigger the effect of Analog Youth to when one of your opponent's one of your level 5 or lower, or higher Digimon with Digivolution cards deleted. Spend this tamer, and then if you do gain a memory, and hatch it, a Digi-egg into an empty space in your breeding area. So I'm going to hatch a Digi-egg, gain a memory. So in this case, that would be the end of the turn, and then since it is 3 or more memory, it is my opponent's turn now. But let's say maybe if you had 1 extra memory in that scenario, like instead of or maybe if you had like another Analog Youth or something, and then you trigger this as well to go down to 2, you have now effectively continued your turn, because for the end of turn, you reached end of turn with this effect and resolved this effect, but because newer effects triggered as a result of the Hell Loogamon being deleted, you resolve these, gaining some memory, hatching an egg, and then now since it is still lower than 3 memory, it's actually just still your turn. Now, you don't restart your whole turn, you don't get like another draw phase or anything like that, but basically the turn doesn't fully pass, if that makes sense. So then now I can continue my turn and, you know, get some more advantage, draw, do some more actions like maybe play another tamer, maybe try to utilize this effect again. So maybe in a scenario like that, I could go Digivolve into this for 2, passing my opponent to 4. Or maybe if I wanted to, I could like just hard play this and utilize effect again, delete it, gaining some memory. Maybe if I had like another analog, I could trigger it. But so there's a lot of really cool things you can do. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was going to be Fenrir Loogamon's when attacking effect, where it says by deleting one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon, unsuspend this Digimon. For each of your Digimon, add one to the maximum level you can choose. So just by itself, like let's say my opponent's got something like this, a level 3 Digimon. But just by itself, Fenrir Loogamon deletes a level 4 because it counts itself. So maybe if my opponent has a board like this, I can go ahead and swing. You know, I was about to say, hold up, it's their turn, but no, it's 2. So it's still my turn. So I'm going to go ahead and swing once per turn by deleting a level 3 lower. But since I have 1 Digimon in play, I can delete a level 4 lower. So I'm going to go ahead and delete their guy, unsuspend. But the thing I want to keep in mind is that you have to be able to delete the Digimon to unsuspend, and you have to actually delete something. So like let's say if my opponent's board is empty and I swing, I can't utilize that effect to unsuspend. Or if they have something like a Black or Greymon with protection. Say in the scenario my opponent's playing Black or Grey and then they've got this Greymon X protection to be able to prevent from a deletion. And then I need the appropriate number of Digimon. So like let's say I've got this as a field because it counts level 4, base, 5, 6 since I have 2 other bodies. So I can go ahead and swing. And then utilize that effect to be able to delete one of my opponent's Digimon. So I'm going to choose the Black or Greymon. My opponent is going to prevent the deletion with the Greymon X, and then because of that, since it didn't delete the stack, I cannot unsuspend. So in this scenario, I do actually just use up that effect. And then I don't get the unsuspend. But then in this scenario, maybe if you did have alliance or something, you could still then, you know, trigger alliance, suspend this, gain 9,000, sec attack +1 or something. But keep in mind that you do actually need to delete the stack in order to resolve that effect. All right, the last couple of cards I wanted to talk about were just a little bit more niche, but I think they have some cool interaction. So in this scenario, let's say it's my opponent's turn, and then they've got a Digimon on field. I've got a Digimon in the breeding area, and I've got Gennai in the battle area, where Gennai says opponent's turn when opponent's level 5 or higher Digimon attacks. By suspending this Digimon, you can move 1 Digimon from your breeding area to the battle area. So in this scenario, what I could do, or rather in this scenario, let's say my opponent's filled something like this. My opponent's going to declare an attack with this Master Tyrannomon. It is a level 5 or higher Digimon. They don't have anyone attacking, so then my Gennai is going to trigger. I can suspend this Tamer, move out my Tyrannomon. And then after that, counter timing is going to happen. So in this scenario, I can counter timing, utilize the Blast Digivolve of my Metal Greymon Ace to then Digivolve it into this, triggering the 1 Digivolving to delete this Patamon. Now, and then in this scenario, that would be the end of that chain of effects, and I would just still lose because I don't have any blockers or anything. And you can only use 1 counter effect in a turn. Or in like 1 instance of a attack. So in that scenario, I couldn't Blast Evolve an Ace and then Metal War Grey Ace. But maybe in this scenario where, like, let's say this was my board instead, and my opponent's going to declare an attack, I could use Gennai here, move out the Metal Grey Ace, and then now during counter timing, utilize the Black War Greymon Ace, the War Greymon Ace, since it does Digivolve 3 from a Greymon in the name. I can Blast Evolve here, and then now during block timing, I can suspend this to block, and then that'll trigger the all turns. No, it won't trigger that because that card has to be removed from the security stack. But maybe, like, let's say I had 1 security left, and then I blocked this one. My opponent attacked here. They hit this. I unsuspend. But in that scenario, you can kind of save yourself being able to, like, move out during your opponent's turn, and then just resolving those cards in order. And then the last card I want to talk about was actually this Tyrannomon here. So let's say, again, it is maybe my turn, like at 3 or something, and then we can go ahead and move out this Tyrannomon. It has a start a main phase effect where it says until the end of the turn when this Digimon would Digivolve into a card with Tyrannomon's name or Dinosaur Ceratopsian trait, reduce the cost by 1. So Dinosaur Ceratopsian is in the typing of a Digimon on the right, where Agumon says Reptile, Metal Greymon says Cyborg. But for example, Master Tyrannomon here is a dinosaur, but he also has Tyrannomon in the name, so he meets either condition. But what I wanted to point out with this effect is it because it says until the end of the next turn when this Digimon, aka this stack, would digivolve, you can get multiple reduction off of the same effect because it's a lingering effect. So in this case, like I'm at 3, I can go ahead and I would digivolve here. I'm going to reduce the cost by 1, so I'm going to evolve Master Tyrannomon for just 3, and then maybe if I also have Rust Tyrannomon Ace in my hand, I can digivolve here, utilize this effect again because it affects the whole stack, digivolve here for just 3. So I'm saving 2 memory off of that interaction, but yeah, just something I wanted to point out. This is a little bit of a cool card. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Let me know if you have any more ruling questions down in the comment section below. I think this should just about cover it for BT14, but there might have been a couple cards here and there I missed. But let me know if you got questions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. And of course, it wouldn't be a ruling video if I didn't forget some last minute kind of things that popped up into my head. But I wanted to talk about D-Brigade real quick. So number 1, from the Commandermon protection effect, where it says all turns once per turn, when this Digimon would leave the battle area other than by your effect, by deleting one of your other Digimon with the D-Brigade trait, prevent it from leaving play. So this is a really strong protection effect, and it basically works the same as Galacticmon. It basically prevents your Digimon from leaving through any effect, whether it be bottom decking, returning to hand, deletion, sending to trash, putting on top of a security stack, putting it underneath a tamer with something like Dramon Superior. Anything like that, you can delete one of your other D-Brigade to prevent it from leaving play. But keep in mind, you have to delete one of your other D-Brigades. So if you don't have one, or maybe it can't be deleted by card effects or something, just keep in mind it does have to delete that Digimon in order to save your stack. The last thing I want to talk about was going to be being able to play non-Digimon cards from the new effects from the Dramon as well as the Brigade Dramon. So Brigade Dramon, for example, says when digivolving, not the one digivolving, is end of turn effect. Reveal top 3, you may play any number of cards with the D-Brigade / Digipolice trait up to total play cost of 7 amongst them without paying the cost, trash the rest. So the cool thing about this is it says play any number of cards, does not specify Digimon cards. So as long as it has the D-Brigade Digipolice trait, something like Satsuki Tamahime, you have your tamer here, which says Digi-Police. You get to play her off of something like the Brigade Dramon or something off of the Dramon, where it says you may play it a card with 4 cost or less, because the tamer has a 3 cost play cost. Now, the thing you can't play with this, unfortunately, I think is kind of silly, but regardless, is the D-Brigade traded option card DCD Bomb, because option cards do not have play costs. They have use costs or costs, but not play costs. I mentioned this in my D-Brigade video, so if you want a more in-depth talk, take a look at that. But basically, you cannot play this off of things like Dramon or Brigade Dramon, despite it being a card with the D-Brigade trait. This also comes up, for example, if you've ever seen the interaction between Psychmon, where it says players can't reduce play costs, and something like Crimson Blaze, where it says reduce the memory cost of this card from your hand by 1 for each Digimon your opponent has in play. Psychmon can't stop Crimson Blaze because option cards do not have play costs. You can think of it as an additional cost, something like a memory cost, or I just call it a use cost or whatever, but it's not the same thing as a play cost. So just wanted to mention that, and I think that should do it for this one. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.